What's up YouTube community, Bernd here, welcome back to the channel. Over the last couple of weeks we talked quite a lot about specific exercises and practice concepts when it comes to techniques like alternate picking, and we also talked about really interesting and important music theory knowledge like mastering the modes, for example. But one thing we kind of neglected is actually using this interesting music theory knowledge and all those technical skills to get really creative with our shredding licks, improvised takes, compositions and so on. So today we will finally do just that, since you guys and girls voted for the topics of improvisation and phrasing on the lesson wish list on Patreon for this month. So with today's lesson I'd like to debunk the myth that all shredders play without feel and without any emotions, and I want to show you how to easily come up with some creative and melodic phrasing ideas for your solos while still keeping a focus on shredding. So let's not waste any more time and start shredding right away. So in case you like to watch different shred guitar videos on YouTube, Instagram or any other social media platform, I'm sure that you're familiar with comments like that. Commenting that technical and outstanding players have no feel has almost become a meme by now, so of course you can't take all of these comments seriously. But sometimes we do tend to get stuck in different scale positions, playing them up and down as fast as possible, and that can sound like an exercise. If you've been following my content and my playing for a while now, you know that I love using those traditional 3-note per string licks. But if that's the only thing that you're doing in the entire solo, it might turn off your audience quite quickly, since it just sounds like a trick. So please don't get me wrong, I absolutely love working on that stuff and including it in my music, but it serves as a great climax for your solos when the intensity level goes up to 11 and beyond, and it should be reserved, in my opinion, for those crazy high energy moments. To illustrate that for today's lesson and to make this concept a little bit less abstract, I prepared 3 practical examples. I composed a really cool riff, just a short section in the key of F minor, and I recorded 3 different takes over this very short section, so I only have very limited time in the form of 1 repetition of this riff to impress you as my audience and listener with this guitar solo, and I want you to honestly decide which take you like the most. After listening to that together, I'd like to go into detail with those 3 different takes and what I want to demonstrate with them, and there are a couple of really helpful tricks in there that you can immediately use for your own music, improvisation and guitar solos after watching this video until the end. But first let's listen to the riff, and those 3 takes I recorded for you. I really hope that we can agree that the third and last take was the best of the bunch. As always, you can download the detailed tabs, guitar profiles and practice backing tracks for this section on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Bernd. Over there I can immediately download these really helpful files for every single lesson that I published on YouTube so far, including some really interesting video play alongs that you can practice with in your practice routine. So you have immediate access to everything once you join us in the community over there, and I also give personal feedback and coaching to the VIP club members. But now let's get back to the really important lesson that I want to share with you today. I think it's quite obvious what happened with the first take, since I illustrated that with the note overlays on the fretboard. With that one I was basically stuck in 2 different scale positions up here, and I was just playing them up and down, and I was paying absolutely no attention to the changing chords in the background. I just thought, well, it's in the key of F minor, so I'm gonna play the F minor scale over the entire thing. And while this conclusion might be correct from a music theory standpoint, all of those notes are in the key of F minor, and you're playing the F minor scale over that, so it mostly works out fine. It will never sound too interesting or melodic, since you're working with such a confined system, not even the entire scale, just those 2 scale boxes, and you're not accenting or not even paying attention to the interesting chords that are happening in the background. I think this riff is really cool and melodic already with those extended power chords. As you could see in the demonstration, I was adding the 9th on top of each power chord. So instead of just playing an F power chord, a perfect 5th consisting of the notes F and C, F on the 1st fret of the low E string, C on the 3rd fret on the A string, I was adding 1 more note to that, G on the 5th fret on the D string. That immediately sounds much more interesting. And for the E flat and D flat power chords, I was also adding the perfect 5th on the bottom once again to make them even bigger. really cool sound. So it's kind of a shame to completely ignore that and just blast the F minor scale over that as fast as possible. There's definitely a time and place for that, but it's not right here in my personal opinion, especially when we only have one repetition of the riff as our solo spot in the song. We really want to make it count and play something interesting. So the first step to achieving that is actually figuring out the chords in the background. Because in the riff we can only hear power chords with that added ninth on top, and we actually don't know if those are major or minor chords. We only have those power chords in the riff with the ninth on top, and they don't include a major or minor third. So the first and very important music theory skill we need right here is identifying and knowing about the chords of the minor scale on each scale degree, of the F minor scale to be more precise. In order to get the basic chords or triads on every single scale degree in the F minor scale, for example, I would just add the third and fifth to each scale note, only using the notes we can find within the scale. So in the beginning, just to get a feeling for that, you could pick a note of the scale, for example F, the root, and then count up 3 notes and 5 notes to get your third and fifth. And for the first scale degree, for F, we would get A flat and C. So A flat is the third and C is the fifth. And since that is a minor third and not a major third, and we also have a perfect fifth in there, so root, minor third, perfect fifth, we have an F minor chord on the first scale degree. And if we continue with that process for every single scale degree in the F minor scale, we get F minor on the first scale degree, G diminished, A flat major, B flat minor, C minor, D flat major and E flat major on the 7th scale degree. So by knowing about this very important theory information, I actually know if I can play a major or minor arpeggio over those power chords. And trust me, it will make a huge difference once you stop mixing together random major and minor arpeggios in your music. It will sound much more melodic and like you actually know what you're doing. So for the first phrase of my solo, when we are moving from F minor to A flat major, I was just playing an F minor arpeggio. And I was also including the ninth from the power chord in the backing track. That would be G in that case, so I have G right here on the 12th fret on the G string. So I'm essentially just thinking the chord shape 1 octave higher and playing down to the minor 7th. And when it comes to phrasing, I want to make sure to not fall into the trap of starting every single arpeggio shape with the root note. So for example, root note third, 5th octave, 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 and so on. That is a very familiar sound, I think, and we are very tempted as players to always start on the root note and to always start on the 1. So for my take, I wasn't starting exactly on the 1 with the root note, which is the most boring note to play over the chord. I started on the 1 end and I was sliding into the 5th instead. So this is how it sounds like when I tap my foot. 1. So I'm not starting immediately on the 1 with the root note. I'm starting on the 1 end to make it a bit more interesting right from the start. And the next very important thing when it comes to phrasing is the comparison of the second and the third take. So with the second of those 3 takes I prepared for you today, my note choices were pretty good already. I was in fact playing the same notes like in the third take, also positioned rhythmically in the same way. But my actual delivery of those notes was very mechanical, robotic and emotionless. So I was essentially using the same dynamics, the exact same dynamics for every single note. And it sounds like I'm just really focused on playing those right notes and on hitting the pitch with the band correctly, and not like I'm really confident with my playing and mean every single note. Here's how you can make that much more dynamic and interesting without actually changing anything about the notes that you're playing or the rhythm. So I'm hitting the more important melodic notes in each measure with a bit more picking attack to really make them stand out, and I'm muting other notes to give it this kind of dynamic flow. Small details like that play a huge part in actually conveying emotion with your guitar solos. So please always think about which notes you could accent and make more interesting with those tiny details instead of just accenting every single note robotically. Once again, listen to the huge difference. Option number 1. Maybe not even including that band, just playing And the second, more interesting option, that sounds much better and also feels so much more satisfying. For the rest of the guitar solo, I was also thinking in arpeggio shapes according to the riff in the background, and I was ending with a fast sweep picking section to prove that there's some place for shredding in there as well. This short guitar solo is a perfect exercise for practicing that kind of dynamic playing and thinking in arpeggio shapes according to the riff in the background. So I really recommend downloading the tabs, guitar profiles and practice backing tracks for this lesson today, so you get the most amount of value out of your next practice session. I really hope you enjoyed today's video about creative, melodic and interesting shredding, and that you will use some of the knowledge and ideas we discussed today for your own playing from now on. Let's prove all the people wrong together from now on that say that shredders play without any feel, and prove to the world that we also have some interesting and melodic phrasing ideas aside from all the insane alternate picking and sweep picking sections. In the end, make sure to subscribe to join this guitar community today, that way you will never miss another video lesson like that again. Leave a like in case you enjoyed that one, that always really helps me out a lot, and a comment in case you have any questions that I can answer for you. If you want to support this channel and the creation of more videos like that, you can also check out the merch on Teespring if you want to. As always, you can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks a lot to all the shredders that ordered some merch already, that really means a lot to me. I will hopefully see you again in the next video lesson. Have a lot of fun practicing all that cool stuff.